Carroll County. This is Commissioner Ed Rothstein, and we're going to do our open session this morning. Excuse me. We're going to take a break, go into closed session, and then this afternoon have open session again at 1:30 with a couple other topics. As we always do, every open session, let's start with a pledge and a moment of silence. During this moment of silence, for me, it's again the healthcare workers, those that are on the front lines, and also Delegate Haven Shoemaker, wife passed away a couple days ago. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers for strength and courage to him and his family as they move forward through this grief and his grieving time.
Mom. That was his mom, Ed.
What did I say? Oh, I apologize. I said wife. No, his mom. I apologize. Yes, his mom. Thank you. Wow. Yes, his mom. And again, the sentiments remain the same. Maintain strength and courage for him and his family during these challenging times. So with that, and thanks, Steve, let's rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and again, Steve, thanks for that catch. My mouth was moving faster than my brain. So let's start with Priority Carroll, and Commissioner Wance, why don't you lead us off?
Good morning. There are so many things that I could come back with your mouth moving more rapid than your brain. But I'll let it go. Hope everyone survived the latest round of snow. I know our folks were out there again doing their job. They always do a great job. So a big thank you to them. In the interest of time here, I'll be very rapid. The only thing that I have for Priority Carroll is we continue to work hard, and a shout out. Mike will be on here shortly. With Mike's already on, but Mike continues to work very hard to watch what's going on in Annapolis. And there's a lot of very challenging things that are going on down there. So Commissioner Frazier and I were on a MACO call that lasted about 3 hours the other day. It's just it's interesting. So the last thing I have, I did have the opportunity to participate with the Partnership for a Healthier Carroll in their 2021 Community Health Needs Assessment the other day. And I'm going to have those folks come in to one of our sessions and give the report that they have put together. And basically what it did was look at all of the healthcare needs in many of our areas in Carroll, all of our population, those that are underprivileged, and it was a really an eye-opening assessment to see what the needs are here. So I'm going to have those folks come in. I'll work that out to give their report to us, because it goes a long way for us as we continue to make sure we provide all the needs for our citizens. So a shout out to those folks, the Partnership for a Healthier Carroll, and specifically the young lady who leads that, Dorothy Fox. And we appreciate what they've done, and more to come on that later. Other than that, look forward to working today and trying to get through with one less hour. That could be interesting.
Okay, thanks, and appreciate the shout out to Partnership Healthier Carroll, and look forward to diving more into that and understanding their capabilities and the importance of what they do. Excuse me, Commissioner Weaver.
Okay. Just one thought here before I get into that. I always hate to be late for a meeting. I always live by, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And I know Commissioner Frazier lives by that same thought pattern on things. But I have a tendency also to book events too close together and not allow for travel time. Last night I was booked so tight, and the Board of Ed started at 5. I had about 15 minutes to change clothes and get into get to Westminster. It wasn't going to happen on time. So I used the AC moment here, that's after COVID, and just zoomed in, which makes life so easy. And I just looked at how things, I have a BC before COVID and AC life after COVID. And I think I'm living everything as a BC or AC moment now. With that, I think the Board of Ed made some decisions last night, or tried to push to open schools. I think by March 22nd, they gave their staff the directive to put things together, check with the state and all those type things that have to happen, put the details together, and can it happen or can it not? So that is one thing that's coming about. And the other thing, I think they're going to see an increase in request in budget, but that's coming up. Interesting meeting anyway. A lot of good things happen. So that's about all I'm going to discuss today for sake of time.
Okay. Excuse me. Thanks, Commissioner Weaver. Commissioner Frazier.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate that. Just a couple of things I want to talk about. First one, our vaccines. I'm sure we all be getting emails from people about the vaccinations, how they're going off, who's not getting them, that kind of thing. The real problem is there aren't enough to go around, no matter how well the health department organizes this and puts it out. And I think Ed Singer and the health department is doing a tremendous job. There just aren't enough vaccines. The last 2 days, I've got emails from different people that have either parents or elderly friends of theirs that have been trying to get in and can't get the vaccine. And believe me, I understand. And I do take all those emails and texts I get and let Ed know about them. And he's very appreciative of that, by the way, and tell him what's going on. But there's only so many vaccines to go around. And it's a problem right now. And it really is. Until we start getting more in the state, we get more in Carroll County, we can't do too much about it. And I have to say, we as a Board of Commissioners and MACo as well, as Steve will attribute as well, is trying to contact the governor, contacting the governor, sending a letter, telling him we need more vaccines here, we need more vaccines in the state. And of course, the governor is at the mercy of the federal government about having vaccines coming in this way. So it's kind of it's a vicious cycle. But the bottom line is we need more vaccines. We're doing the best we can with what we have. All the vaccines that we get into Carroll are put in people's arms in that week. And so they're doing a tremendous job that way. I do have a question about what happened at the school board meeting last night. I didn't see it, I have to admit that, but I did see a lot on the social media about it. And like Commissioner Weaver alluded to already, they're planning to open up schools fully on the middle of next month or starting next month, whatever it is. My questions are about social distancing. Is that no longer a factor? Are all the teachers going to be vaccinated by then? How are they going to have the room and do all this? I just like to see the plan for that really well thought out and worked out before they move ahead with it. Because, I'll just say that there has to be a plan, has to be put out there. Everyone can see it. And if they're going to open them up, I think all the teachers and staff should all be vaccinated before that happens, or it's just the way it should be. So I'll leave it at that. We need to see a plan for the school system if they're going to open up and how it's going to be, because I don't understand how all those kids could go in to the building now, where before they couldn't because of social distancing, and they all have to wear masks, and it's just the way that it is. They all can't or don't, and the younger kids, they're younger kids. The masks come off when they cough or sneeze, and they put them back on. That's the way it is. Is that safe without people being vaccinated? All that has to be addressed and put out to the public before this can happen. I just like to see the plan well in advance of this happening. I think we as county leaders should request, to use a nice word, request to see that plan before this happens. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Just one word, Dennis. That takes state approval, and that plan, they're looking at what they can do in that. So it's not set in stone yet.
Okay, Commissioner Boucher.
Good morning, colleagues. I want to thank Commissioner Frazier for doing that public announcement about the need for vaccines. We're all getting the phone calls and emails, so thank you very much. I'd like to start off by covering Carroll County Public Library. Since it'll be on our agenda today, I contacted Director Bursler, and she supplied some information. In consideration that it's winter, I am an avid reader. I read a lot more during the winter. I think a lot of other people do. I think it's a great opportunity for people to utilize their library. Even though we have restrictions, it's still accessible. Carroll County Public Library is currently in the middle of their reading challenge, which runs from the first of the year until March 19th. Participants can read books, complete activities, or submit a review to earn points. Everyone who completes the program by earning 300 points will be entered into a prize drawing. The program is open to all ages. They are also hosting online programs such as Greek Mythology Trivia Night, Saturday, February 13th from 7 to 8. That's pretty neat. I remember as a child reading about Greek mythology. It's very fascinating and fun for fiction. They also have deep relaxation classes the 14th or the 17th of this month from 6:30 to 7:30. Now, this is really good. I'm a firm believer in yoga and stretching and deep breathing. No matter how old you are, this is very critical. It helps reduce stress. And with the COVID restrictions, we're well aware that people have suffered from anxiety and depression. So this will be very beneficial to people out there. Please go online and check this out. And the last item, we have their Boredom Buster class, a once-a-month program. The next one is March 3rd. The monthly Boredom Buster class will be available on a first-come, first-served basis. Your bag will include crafts for the entire month. You can pick them up during library hours at the Eldersburg branch, down in Commissioner Rothstein's district, beginning Wednesday while supplies last. So please take the opportunity to utilize the resources we have in our public library. A lot of people overlook this resource, but it's a tremendous resource. And I'll close by also reiterating what Commissioner Wentz said about our road crews. They do a fantastic job, not only the administration, the bureau chiefs, but the guys and gals out there driving the trucks, running the front end loaders while we're all home in bed or snuggle up on our couches. Our staff are out there ensuring that our roads are safe, and they're doing an absolutely wonderful job. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Boucher. And I will, excuse me, segue into that last comment as well. The DPW, the roads, the facilities, the work over at the landfill, transportation, our communications team with Chris Swam and Chris Weinbrenner getting the word out is really second to none. We just let you know, timetable, we had a call yesterday, mid-afternoon or late afternoon, recognizing the forecast, recognizing the situation from our emergency services. And these are the subject matter experts that we have in our county. We were able to determine a 2-hour delay. We then, 2-hour delay, in other words, 10 o'clock this morning. We made a final call this morning in case there was additional accumulation that we were not expecting or that the roads could not be cleared. Neither was true. The teams did an incredible job clearing the roads and then getting off the roads to allow commuters to commute using both county and state roads. And just a great shout out to them. Key to this is getting the word out early, I believe, and excuse me, good communications. So really shout out to everyone, to include the community staying off the roads while the big trucks are on there, whether plowing or salting. I went to the Ag Board meeting the other day. Very good opportunity, a lot of energy from the team, looking at opportunities here in Carroll County, starting to focus on the summer events and some of the activities on whether we'll be able to hold them or not. So more to follow on that. But one thing that they did share, and it was kind of a side note, was the appreciation they have for our health department in both the vaccination process and the testing process. And we've heard nothing but just great, news on the efficiency that our health department, that's teamed with others that are volunteers and also our National Guard in getting folks in and out of the facilities, whether they're being tested and or vaccinated. So just a great job. Commissioner Frazier, you're absolutely right. You know, we can do as many letters as we want. And Commissioner Wentz, you've also shared the same sentiment. But the facts are, you know, there's only so many doses that are out there. We still believe that those that know the best situation are, as I would say in the military, the commanders on the ground. And that's Ed Singer and others on where the most vulnerable are to be vaccinated. That was the sentiment of the letter that all jurisdictions sent or signed and through MACO to go to the governor, along with Ed Singer. And will it make a difference? I'm not expecting to jump up and down and say it will, but we will continue to be persistent and focus on those most persistent, or excuse me, those most vulnerable in the county, and give as best resources to Ed Singer and his team to identifying them and getting, like Dennis, you said, shots in the arms. So real shout out to them. We still have a long, long ways to go, in my view. Okay. With all that said for Prairie Carroll, unless there's any additions, what I'd like to do is state directives. Have there been any? I don't think so. At this point, I do know, and I appreciate Commissioner Wentz, you sharing that the governor has a press conference at 2 p.m. this afternoon. So we'll see what he has to share. My expectations is he will highlight the vaccination rollout, especially with the regional centers and additional private pharmacies that are being, you know, receiving the vaccinations. But we'll wait and see unless you've heard any different. Commissioner Wentz?
No, I haven't heard anything different. Yeah, we usually get some sort of a clue as to what he's going to speak about this afternoon. We haven't got that yet. I don't think that Ed's going to be on here today. I think we have Maggie, but I do know that Ed was involved yesterday at a meeting at noon with the governor's staff and MACO. As most of you know, or maybe you don't, Ed is the chair of the MACO affiliate of the health officers in the state of Maryland. So, you know, let's be clear, you know, Ed's been very strong about his opinion and telling the opinions of the other health officers. And it's interesting to me, and Ed, you know this too, this isn't just coming from the rural counties, it's coming from every county and every city in the state. It's just hard to understand why there is such a priority to put these vaccinations into mass vaccine clinics and pharmacies, when the people that know best, as you said, Ed, about getting these needles in arms are our local health departments. And I was very taken back by the fact that even Mayor Brandon Scott said that yesterday in Baltimore City. So I don't understand why the word's not getting to the State House in Annapolis. I don't get it. Even the legislators are saying it. Yeah. Something's got to give. It's just, but I'll be anxious to hear, I don't know if Maggie knows or not, but I'll be anxious to hear how Ed made out yesterday with that meeting. But as you say, Ed, it's probably business as usual, because they don't seem to be listening down there. So, and while I've got the pulpit, I will 100% agree with Commissioner Frazier. We have got to see a plan. I've got a daughter, a wife in the system, and just to say everybody goes back and let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya without a plan is unacceptable. And I'll leave it at that.
No, I appreciate both comments, and a bit of a surprise that you agree 100% with Commissioner Frazier, but that's a different story for a different time. I never thought I would be in lockstep with Mayor Scott, or any mayor for that matter of Baltimore at this point, or others around the state. But the fact is, this has zero to do with politics. This has zero to do with constituency. It has everything to do with community and neighbors and identifying the most vulnerable populations and getting the needles in the arms, and also ensuring that they have a way to get to where they need to go to get those needles in the arms. And it's not the regional centers in Prince George's County and Baltimore City. It is up in Tawnytown and Eldersburg and Mount Airy, and it's getting it local. So I'll continue to beat that drum. I don't believe that they're deaf in Annapolis, but but it's still not getting through. So the priorities of distribution seems to be different than the priorities that we've laid out. And I guess I'll leave it at that. Sometimes I feel like we're a broken record, but we got to keep on saying it. Okay. Extension of state of emergency is next on every 30 days. Scott Campbell and Valerie, are you on? Maybe.
I'm here, Commissioner. If I could find the right button to click. I apologize, sir. Actually, Ms. Hawkins and I are actually just here in case the commissioners have questions for us. I believe the matter of whether or not the emergency declaration is extended is something that the board has addressed previously, and we'll simply be on record as saying we support that it be renewed again.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a
comments? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion that we extend the state of emergency for another 30 days.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, got a motion, got a second. Any further discussion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor? Okay, we got 5-0. Let's move on. And yeah, I believe Maggie, thank you, Valerie, and thank you for all you're doing as well. Maggie, are you on?
Morning, Commissioners. Yes, I am.
Great.
Camera's
Let's
not.
talk about what's going on in Carroll County Health Department. Again, kudos to you and the entire team for all the work you're doing. I'm hearing nothing but positive as far as the operations are concerned. So,
Well, thank you all for a lot of the things that you said already this morning, and for really talking about the vaccine rollout and sharing a lot of the things that we've been saying all along. So we'll just go through this presentation. Most of it is, just the kind of overview of where we are, pretty similar to last week. And then we'll get into the vaccine data and information at the end. So let's see. So, as you can tell, the next several slides, you'll see that thankfully we are mirroring the national trends that the curves are going down. So we're happy to see that happening here locally with both our probable and confirmed cases. And of course, our rolling average reflects that as well. And again, that all age groups are going down. So happy to see all that consistently across these graphs. Hospitalizations also going down. As you know, this graph lags somewhat, but you can see still definitely a downward trend, and we've seen the hospital numbers falling. We're trying to track them still on the website, but we've seen those going down. The overall census and the number of patients and the number of PUIs all going down. Still significant. Still definitely having an impact on the hospital, but less than we have seen in that surge that we had a month ago. So we're happy to see those numbers going down. This is just, this is an overall graph that really doesn't show time, but just shows, we can continue to see obviously the hospitalizations and deaths in the older age groups. Yes, and here are deaths. We did, as we know, as we talked about several times, deaths do lag hospitalizations, and hospitalizations lag somewhat the cases. So we are still seeing kind of the end of the tail of the surge that we had. So last week we saw kind of a record number of community deaths 2 weeks ago. Last week, less so. What we did just have 3 community deaths reported yesterday from the past few days. And just to note that 2 of those deaths were under 65. None of that data is reflected in this presentation this week, because this is all last week's numbers and previously, but just to let you know that there were 2 fatalities in residents under 65 in the community in the last week. All right, any questions about non-vaccine data before we move on?
Nope, keep going. Thanks.
Okay, all right, we will move on. Okay, so here you're pretty used to seeing this pyramid. Still, we're still in the same spot, and the state open to 1C, but the health department clinics still open to 1B. I think I forgot to update the week on this, but the information is pretty much the same. We are still working on finishing up our 1A. We'll have a 1A clinic scheduled next week. And again, that's first responders and healthcare providers. These are still first doses for some of these folks. It was a larger group, I think, than we anticipated. And we're still just making sure that all of those folks, in those groups who live and work in Carroll County are getting an opportunity to get vaccinated if they want to. So some folks staggered their staff. And so that also, made it take a little bit longer. In that sort of wrap up clinic, we're also including still some private school and childcare as we were able to, as they're in 1B, but we're trying to work on, finishing up that group as well. So that's still in the works, but hopefully coming to a close, the majority of that. And then we're really, just working our way as quickly as we can through 1B, really, as focusing on targeted clinics to adults 75 and up, and rotating those around the county to make them as easy as possible for people to access. So we were in Tawnytown yesterday, and Westminster and Tawnytown this week. We're going to Mount Airy next week. So we're trying our best to reach folks where they are to make it as easy as possible for them to access vaccination. One thing I do want to mention here is that the way that we do our clinics is that they're very targeted to certain groups. And so we have clinics that are specifically for people who are 75 and up, and it's only open to those folks. And that makes it easy for us to make sure that those targeted groups, those most vulnerable people, are getting the vaccine. So, and then we have, as I mentioned, like a 1A clinic, which is for a specific group of people who live and work in Carroll County. And we have had some issues, as they have in every county, had some issues with people sharing those links inappropriately. And I think many times it's not, it's just out of just wanting to share and wanting to help others. But unfortunately, that makes a lot of extra work for us, because we have to go through and delete people who are not, we're not targeting with that clinic. That just takes a lot of work, and it's just frustrating for everybody. So we just really ask people, if they receive a link, if it is for them, to use it as it is appropriate, and if it is not for them, to not use it and to not pass it on to others. We're really targeting specific people with specific clinics, and if people are not targeted by that clinic, they will not be able to be vaccinated at that clinic. They're certainly welcome to contact us and find out more about when they might be able to be vaccinated, but they're not going to be able to be vaccinated at that specific clinic. So we just ask people not to share those links with others. It just makes a lot more work and makes it just a lot more frustrating for everyone involved. All right, so here are our vaccination numbers. I just updated these this morning with some of the vaccines that we were able to give out, both the first and second doses this week. So we're well on our way to using up most of our first dose allocation for this week, and wrapping up our, we've got another second dose clinic, I believe, this afternoon, and then another one on Friday. So we are busy giving those second doses to a lot of those first responders and healthcare providers who were able to get vaccinated very early in our clinics. And then we have we're still continuing to give a lot of first doses, especially to the 75 and up group. So right now our total stands at 7,645 first doses. And this is Ed's chart. So it has a lot of detail on it, but just gives you a little bit of an update on, and you can see the bottom of it isn't quite updated. This is a couple of days old, but this just kind of gives you a sense of how many we've been able to vaccinate in each, or how many we're looking at in each group, how many there are, and how many we've been able to vaccinate in each of those groups. So you can see that we've been making progress. And, again, targeting those groups, we're really, again, in 1B, we're really targeting the 75 and up. That's our, priority population, but continuing to vaccinate the private schools and childcare as we're able. And of course, CCPS is running their own vaccination clinics for their staff with vaccine that we're able to allocate for them. Just a note about the education and continuity of government. We don't expect to be reaching those groups. It's kind of late phase 1B for another several weeks. So we are starting to plan for those. We're working with McDaniel and Carroll Community to plan for how many people they're going to need vaccinated. And we're working with, of course, the municipalities and the county government to determine how many people are in the continuity of government group. And we'll be hopefully reaching those folks in several weeks. And then it'll be a few more weeks after that before we're able to hopefully get to 1C and begin 1C with the essential workers. And of course, we'll be focusing on adults 65 to 74 at that point. And we continue at the health department to encourage people to sign up on our interest forms if they haven't already, but use that as a backup if they're able to. Some people are able to find vaccination appointments in other locations. And if they're able to, we encourage them to continue looking. Some people are really eager to get vaccinated and willing to take some time to look for appointments and opportunities elsewhere. And some people have been successful. So we encourage people to do that, but to know that the health department is working as quickly as possible to get to those next groups. And, we'll be contacting people directly as soon as we're able to vaccinate them. All right, does anybody have any questions?
Hey, Maggie, I do have a question. On the slide you just showed about the education and continuity government, do you have a handle on how many staff members for Carroll County Public Schools have been vaccinated of the 5,500 that are there? Or do you don't have that broken out, or do you?
No, I don't have it in front of me. I know that we've been, the last couple of weeks, we've had a little bit lower allocation. So we've had a little bit lower number to be able to share with them. But I can get that for you, but I don't in front of me have that total number.
I was just wondering if they're anywhere close. They're planning to open up schools, and I'm wondering how close they were to having all those staff members vaccinated. Do you, off the top of your head, know if they're close to that, or are they nowhere near close, or what is it?
I don't think they're particularly close to having that full number vaccinated.
Okay.
Ed said last night approximately a third, I think, at the present time, and he just doesn't have enough vaccine to get to him. If he had the vaccine, he'd have it done. So that's close.
Thank you,
I
Commissioner.
realize it's a vaccine problem, and I understand that. It's not the health department problem, it's the vaccine problem to have enough. But if you only got 1/3 of the people vaccinated for the staff, and then you're trying to get all the students back in school, just doesn't seem like a good plan to me.
Ms. Coates, I'm happy to see the 75+ bracket around 1/3 of the way vaccine. That was my biggest concern. I'm glad you're making headway on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're really happy to be able to move forward, I think, with significant amounts of the vaccine for that population. It's been really a joy to talk to a lot of people and to really be able to get them in, get them registered, and start to get them vaccinated. It's been really a pleasure. I've spoken to a lot of individuals myself, and it's really just been nice to assist them in signing up and getting that group moving forward. So I do have two other things that Ed wanted me to mention just from this morning. So, and in terms of seniors, so the state, is developing a pharmacy program to partner pharmacies with senior housing and independent living facilities, which is moving forward with Citizen Services is assisting us with that and working with those facilities. But just so you know, that allocation we did find out was going to come off the top of the state allocation. So it's not going to be additional from the federal government. It would come off the top of the state before it's allocated to the counties. And so that will, impact our allocation. And unfortunately, some of these facilities are 55 and up, 62 and up. And so not necessarily the group that we're currently targeting. So that may impact our ability to continue to move forward as quickly with the 75 and up. So just wanted you to be aware of that. He also mentioned this morning that some other counties are reporting that Walmart had mentioned that their corporate Walmart has decided that they are not going to allow them to keep local lists of folks, and are instead going to take sort of a corporate control of their pharmacy program and their vaccination program. And so we're not sure exactly how that will impact things, but they're looking to work more closely with their local health departments to ensure that the priority populations who were signing up at Walmart are covered in some way. So, just trying to work with those local Walmarts. It's not an issue locally at this point that I know of. As far as I know, the Giant in Westminster is the only retail pharmacy in Carroll County right now that's offering the vaccine. I think the Safeway, there are some other ones that are starting to plan, but anyway, I just wanted you to know that that's kind of just one thing we've seen in the large retail pharmacies that may challenge some of the sort of local control also of the vaccination process.
where this really does impact, like you said, accountability of who's getting vaccinated, but also places like Caroline County, they're getting folks from Delaware coming across. That's what the commissioner keeps saying. And again, he's doing a great job sharing the impact of what's happening up in his county, which is the exact same happening across the board. But specifically in his county, his concern is their Walmart folks. There's more Delaware tags in their parking lot than there is Maryland tags, and Walmart's not checking to see if it's Maryland or Delaware. They're just putting needles in arms. So that is a major concern. And the comment about taking doses into the pharmacies out of the state program or out of the state allocation is significant, because at first we didn't think it was, but we pressed the question, and the answer coming back was yes, it will come out of the state allocation. So that's another major concern, but appreciate it.
Maggie, do you folks keep a list of, you said you think that Giant is the only one in Carroll. That's a little troubling to me. You think that is. Do we know if CVS or the Rite Aids of the world, are we keeping track of who's got it in Carroll and who's giving it, or is that just willy-nilly, if you will?
I haven't received any information directly from the state about who's available in Carroll County. I need to go and check and just see what else is available. I think we've had a little bit of interaction with some of those pharmacies talking with us, and obviously individuals talking with us. But honestly, we have been so focused on the registration process here. I haven't been able to do as much proactive messaging as I would like. So that's something that I need to look into just to confirm. But that was just the last that I knew could confirm that Giant was working on it. And it seems like the pharmacies are having the same issue we are, that they don't necessarily know until the last minute, or they're told this or they're doing that. And so everybody's, things are just changing quite frequently. But I will check and get back to you if I find any other facilities who are offering it.
Okay, thanks. It would just be nice to know, for collaboration purposes here in the county, who's got it and who can give or whatever. I've had a couple constituents ask me, and I said, I have no idea, nor have I heard. So, okay.
So what we're recommending is that folks, if they're interested in looking, the state site, it's good and bad. It doesn't do the work for you, but you can go on the state locator site and search for, in a zip code close to you, or close to, anywhere else that you'd be comfortable going, and at least see what's available. It's just that each site, then you have to go and figure out how their registration process works, and whether it's, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to look for a space, or whether you just sign a form and wait to hear. It's all different. And so it's not an ideal system by any matter of means. But at least if people are interested in finding out more about what might be available near them, they can certainly go to that state vaccine locator site, put in their zip code, and look and see what's nearby.
Yeah, I've heard the same. And I heard that multiple sites, as soon as they get the allocations, they open it up, they close in 20 minutes because there's 600 doses or have already been allocated. I do know also that CVS is expanding their services, I believe in Fulton and Frederick as well. Because just a lot of friends of mine are trying to take care of their families and their parents, and they're going to multiple sites, and they're surfing for a couple hours and trying to get their parents vaccinated and driving them to wherever they need to go. It's obviously not optimal, but they're looking out for their families. This is a continuing saga. And again, appreciate all the things you're doing with the doses that you're receiving, the team over at the health department, and communicating to us on what's happening. But we still have a long ways to go. Any other questions or comments to Maggie?
Ms. Coons, I just want to thank you for mentioning the human side of this, because we get the calls and emails, and when you expressed your compassion for these people, that really puts the human side on, because we can sit here and look at all the numbers and charts, But behind all these statistics is the human beings out there, and they're very much concerned. They have anxiety about it. And I'm glad that you address them individually and reassure them of what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I really have enjoyed talking to a lot of constituents, a lot of residents in the county, and tried our best to explain why what's going on and what we can do for them and what we recommend. And we invite people to continue to call us. I know sometimes it's a little bit hard to get through, but you're welcome to call the call center. We have a lot of folks up there who are willing to listen and try to help and explain and answer complicated questions, answer easy questions. And just talk to folks about what's going on and what they can do for themselves to advocate for themselves.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, Maggie, again, thank you so much. Now get back to work, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Legislative, absolutely. Great job. Mike Fowler, you're up for giving us a legislative update. Before you do it, just thought of something, Commissioner Wance. The press conference, it may be Governor Hogan talking about taxes. I don't know, but he's obviously been on a significant bandwagon about the tax situation, along with a whole lot of others. That may be the topic du jour. I don't know. So, oh, he said COVID?
It says COVID related.
Oh, okay. Said COVID related. Okay. Never mind. Go ahead, Mike.
Good morning, commissioners. Before I start, you mentioned Ed Singer and his leadership as a MACO affiliate. I want to remind you, you have 3 other of your directors that are leaders of their respective MACO affiliates. Ted Zaleski, Kim Frock, and Mark Ripper all lead their respective affiliates for MACO. So Carroll County has, number one, a lot of input, but also a lot of respect among their peers. I don't think that's a position where people step back and they were the only ones standing up front. I think that that's also a large measure of respect from their peers. So we're a third of the way into the session now. The bills look like they may be a little less than a typical session. We're a little less than 2,300. The dates to introduce bills in both the House and the Senate have passed. They were the 5th in the House and the 8th in the Senate. So any bill submitted now needs to go through the Rules Committee. Not necessarily a tall hurdle, but it is a significant date. And I think the next significant date we'll see is March 22nd, and that's crossover. So the governor's veto overrides were conducted in the House this week. They voted as expected to override the 2 major bills, the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, which is the Kerwin bill, and the digital advertising tax bill. The Republicans put up a good fight, but the votes just aren't there. So the Senate is expected to take up the vetoes this week. I don't see anything on their agenda for today. So if they're going to do it, either it will be a late edition or they'll be doing it tomorrow. On the governor's budget, education funding was a concern. The governor put in hold harmless grants to cover the counties for the diminished enrollment because of COVID. And so you must increase funding over last year to qualify for the grants. The position that could potentially put you in is it sets a new floor, and you would have to increase your MOE even more when enrollment increases. But there appears to be a fix in that will prevent that from happening. So that's good news. Governor's Relief Act had another significant impact to local governments. There does appear that there's that effort to address the hit to counties from the unemployment tax exemption won't be addressed. Now, the House has got the bill now, and I did read that they may be making some modifications to that, but how substantive that will be, we just don't know yet. We'll have to see how how that actually rolls out. The big issue of, or issues, I should say, of police reform and accountability, the speaker's bill was heard earlier this week. MACO and MML jointly submitted a letter of information. I think I mentioned that to you last week in our discussion. There are a number of challenges in that bill for local governments. The issue of having the Board of Commissioners in an oversight role over the elected sheriff. Also, the Administrative Charging Committee would have to be reconstituted for municipalities within the county, and a couple other issues. I forwarded to you the letter, so you'll see all the points that they made, and they have been assured of a place at the table as this bill moves through the discussions within committee. Senator Carter's bill was the other significant bill that related to the repeal of the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights. That was also heard next week. There really isn't a significant impact to the counties outside of whatever policing issues affect the sheriff's office. But the Administrative Charging Committee that's in the speaker's bill is not in this bill. And there's an option for the county to constitute or to involve themselves in the discipline process, but it's only an authorization. It's not a mandate. Body cameras have been a big concern, obviously, probably for several years now. House Bill 187 would require body cameras by October of this year. And that's all the bill says. There's nothing about storage, costs, the Public Information Act access, nothing. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. The speaker's bill, you'll remember, has a deadline of 2025, I believe it is. And actually, that's one of the points in the joint letter, that there are a number of issues that need to be resolved before body cameras can really be put into effect. Speaking of Public Information Act, Senate Bill 690 was a MACO initiative of a few years ago. This really tries to limit the access to body cam footage through the public information requests. Try to minimize what is often referred to as a fishing expedition. In other words, give me all of your officers' body cams for the last 3 weeks. It would be much more focused. It would be based on an incident. So you would be able to access the cameras for that particular incident. So that seems to be really the way we'd like to go. Obviously, we sponsored the bill several years ago. Senator Sidnor sort of dusted it off now that the issue has really come to the fore. Commissioner Rothstein brought up the SRO related bills last week. There are 3. House Bill 522 was heard in Ways and Means last week. I'll mention that Delegate Shoemaker and Delegate Rose are both on the Ways and Means Committee. I know Delegate Shoemaker weighed in on these. House Bill 522 essentially limits it to no enforcement of school discipline. That appears to be a significant concern from many of the larger and more urbanized counties. The Maryland Association of School Boards supported that bill. And I also mentioned, I should say this, on the notes that I gave to you, I also noted MACO's positions on these bills, either support, oppose, or no position. In this case, House Bill 522 took no position. Same with Senate Bill 245. That's a little more expansive. It also would prohibit enforcement of school discipline, but it also limits the resource officer from entering the school only if he or she is invited by the administration or to address a direct threat or to participate in some program activities, planned activities. They must conceal their firearms and be in civilian clothing. MABE opposed this bill. MACO did not take a position. And the last one, I think I'd mentioned this briefly early on.
Before you just go on, just either Commissioner Wance or Frazier, thoughts on the no position. Is it to allow us to MACO to stay at the table in discussion? Because I would think we as, Carroll County would oppose these bills. And I would imagine many of the, smaller jurisdictions were opposing. Was there a discussion on this, or just curious?
What specific, I'm sorry, I missed a specific bill. Are you talking in general or?
Talking about the SRO bills.
To my knowledge, the one that directly affected us, MACO voted not to support. But am I right about that, Mike?
House Bill 496 is the one that diverts the funding to mental health services and counselors, but does not eliminate the requirement to have an SRO. So essentially puts all the required funding on the local jurisdiction. That right. Was opposed. The others, I think there is a disparity or diversity of opinion on this. And some of the larger jurisdictions are actually working on their own to deal with this issue. So I think that there's not common ground among the counties on this, with the exception of the 496.
Okay. I mean, yeah, to me, I would think we would want to keep it at local jurisdictions to maintain and not have this shoved down our throats as far as trying to push away our SROs in the community, because that's the last thing we want right now.
Yeah, I will say that on Senate Bill 245, so this is the one that essentially kind of neuters the program, not from a funding perspective, but from a practical perspective. And Senator Pinsky is the chair of that committee. And from a political perspective, you would think he would be all in on that. But he's a pretty thoughtful legislator. And he kind of brought up those issues that not every county has the same issues and the same opinions around SROs, and that they were really placed in the schools, at least through the Safe Schools Act, as a proactive measure and not a reactive measure. And I think it sounds like the issues of it being involved in discipline are exponentially higher in some counties than they are in others. So it looks like there's a commonality in these bills to prevent the SROs from getting involved in discipline. And that may be a common ground among them. But Senator Pinsky's comments, I think, were instructive, in my opinion.
Okay.
On to another interesting piece of legislation. This is the Maryland Essential Workers Protection Act, House Bill 581 and Senate Bill 486. The House has heard that on the 5th, and that was a 3.5-hour hearing. The bills have a strong sponsor line in the Senate. Almost half of the Senate is a sponsor of this bill. It's a straight Democrat sponsorship line. The House version is sponsored by the chairman of the committee, Derek Davis. So they've got some juice in that respect. But it's a very, very expansive bill. It sets up a set of conditions for an emergency. And I found the definition of emergency to be very interesting. It's defined as the imminent threat or occurrence of severe or widespread loss of life, injury, or other health impacts, property damage or destruction, social or economic disruption, or environmental degradation from natural, technological, or human-made causes, or a formal emergency declaration. So just think about how expansive that definition is, for one. It defines essential workers, and again, a very expansive list, 6 pages worth of industries and positions within those industries that are considered essential workers. Under these conditions, a worker can refuse a work assignment. There are requirements for supplemental hazard pay. The employer must provide health and bereavement leave. The employer must provide PPE. The employer must pay all unreimbursed health costs if the illness is contracted during the emergency, whether or not it can be determined it was while the individual was on duty. So that would be co-pays, premiums, out-of-pocket costs, transportation costs, any unreimbursed costs. It would also require this to have taken effect when the emergency is declared. So there's a retroactive aspect to this bill in dealing with the current COVID issue. The chair described the bill initially. He knew it was going to be very controversial. He described it as a starting point. Now, I don't take that as a starting point that it will get more expansive. I take that as let's throw everything into the pot and we'll start to whittle away at it. That was my takeaway from that. But there was a very, again, 3.5 hours. So all the usual suspects were lined up. Labor, obviously, in strong favor. The business community, obviously, in opposition. MACO testified in opposition. So this is one that we will be following very closely. And I know that this concerned you greatly, Commissioner Wance.
Was it easily opposed from MACO?
Yes. Yes,
Good.
without a doubt.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of discussion on this one. So,
Good.
yeah.
No, this was a very quick vote, quick discussion, quick vote.
Yep.
Also, again, a couple of bills related to occupational disease. House Bill 1247 and Senate Bill 726, and also so that's cross-file. And then Senate Bill 756, very, very similar. Workers' compensation. It presumes that a worker that contracts COVID would have contracted it resulting from his employment, and that's a compensable occupational disease. Doesn't fit, apparently, the legal definition of occupational disease. But we obviously opposed that one as well. House Bill 1326 and Senate Bill 727, revisions to the Maryland Healthy Working Families Act. It would require the employer to provide an increased amount of sick and safe leave during a declared health emergency. That one was opposed also. And then House Bill 733 is the Retirement Tax Reduction Act of 2021. That was opposed. The hearing is scheduled today. It is the governor's bill, but it's a pretty significant impact to local revenues. When you look at the fiscal impact, it creeps up to $250 million in 2027. So that's a pretty significant impact. And obviously the body opposed that. Election law continues to churn. House Bill 745. This deals with the number of early voting centers that are required. If the county has a registered voter, a number of registered voters between 100,000 and 200,000, they must have 3 early voting centers. The existing law put that threshold at 125,000. If I remember from our discussions last year, the expectation was we would probably reach that threshold for the next election. So 3 early voting centers will be required. But remember, there's a lot of bills floating around about elections. There's one that I think I talked to you last week about this, where everyone gets a mail-in ballot, but you're required to have the same number of polling places that you had in the last election, and they need to be able to receive any voter. They won't be by district, they'll be by geographic area. So a lot of these election bills are going to have to be reconciled in some way. Senate Bill 271, this was the one, again, this was here last year, would require these special ballot marking devices for all voters. Right now, they're used for people with disabilities. This would require them for all voters. It's a very expensive proposition, and that was opposed by MACo as well. There's another bill that's been introduced, House Bill 836, COVID-19 testing, contract tracing, and vaccinations. So it's trying to deal with much of what you have been talking about earlier today, or at least in part. It sets up a structure and goals for testing across the state, sets a goal of at least 6 testing sites in each county for this year and next, sets up a local contact tracing program, local government vaccination sites with state funds, directs the state to develop a prioritized and a streamlined vaccination plan. MACo is trying to gather more information from the sponsor. It's a very extensive bill. I want to get this in front of Mr. Singer for his opinion if he doesn't have one already. And the hearing is scheduled for the 23rd, so I suspect that the legislative committee will probably take this up next week. So I'll do what I can to get you some more information in advance of that, so you'll be making an informed decision on that. House Bill 502 was another bill that was a great impact to the state's attorney's office. It requires extremely detailed reporting on every case that they prosecute to be made available to the public. The state's attorneys were strongly opposed to this. They say it's going to require them additional dedicated staff to this effort, and the MACo has opposed that on their recommendation. And the last one I have for you is our public facilities bond. Senate hearing is set for next week. No schedule yet on the House version, but I'm following that one very closely for the obvious reasons. So that's what I have for you today.
Great update.
Mr. Power, thanks for the wonderful report. As always, it seems like whenever the General Assembly is in session, it's all costs us locally a lot more money to administer. Now, on a lighter note, I noticed you have a portrait on the wall behind you. I was wondering if you can identify the gentleman, and is it up there for Black History Month? I thought maybe it was a musician.
He's up there all the time. It's Miles Davis and Birth of the Cool, probably the greatest jazz album ever recorded. And he sits over a piano, which I can't play, which I bought for my daughter many years ago, and it still sits there gathering dust.
Well, good for you. I'm a big fan of music, so I was thinking all along it was a jazz musician, and I was right. On a different note, and I have to express my frustration over this whole thing down there with the SROs. It seems odd that a lot of times it's the same politicians that want to take the armed guards away from our students in school, or all for the armed guards protecting our congressmen. I just like to say that, I think protecting our children is a priority, and to voice my opinion against any moves to stop protecting our children. After all, I think what led to this was the school shootings and the fear of our children being harmed. And if you're talking about pulling it back, it gets quite confusing. I just hope that people listen to our sheriffs and other law enforcement. So thank you for your report.
Yeah, I'll just comment on that for a moment. So in these hearings, you hear a lot of discussion about the impact to minority youth, the high numbers of arrests of these kids in school, and the school to prison pipeline is often mentioned. So again, in these very populous and urbanized and high minority school systems, they have some challenges that you don't see in a system like Carroll. And so that's really what's leading it. I think we talked about this early on, that you've got Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and Baltimore City and Baltimore County that can pretty much drive the agenda in the General Assembly because of the size of their delegations. So they're really leading the charge on a lot of these issues around social justice and racial equity. And so I think that's why you're seeing this difference of opinion on that.
I guess ultimately, our experiences in different municipalities and counties gives us a different perspective. And we in Carroll County don't see the same perspective that the politicians of Baltimore City see. So I do understand that. Thank you.
Yeah, Mike, just to add on, I mean, it doesn't take away our appreciation and understanding of other communities, but it drives home the importance of governing local. And the more we can do that, the better off we're going to be. So that's why I think there's such opposition to this, because again, just like distribution vaccinations, who knows it best but the commanders on the ground and the community itself. So, but again, I appreciate the update. Yeah.
I go back to Senator Pinsky's comments, and he actually mentioned that he voted against the Safe Schools Act, but I think he does recognize your point about the diversity of opinion and that not every jurisdiction is going to feel the same about their SRO program.
Yep.
And I'll piggyback on your comments, Commissioner Rothstein, is that MACO generally, when they're looking at bills, if it mandates something to the county, generally they don't look at it favorably. But if it gives the county the option to do it if they want to do it, then they look at it more favorably, because just what you said, the local leaders have a better idea about what should be done for their particular counties and groups. And MACO echoes that in almost every single vote. There's a few exceptions, but most of the time, if it's mandated, nope. If it's giving you the option, we're going to look at it. And I think that's a good stance to have for MACO.
Fantastic. Appreciate it. Okay. Anything else for the good of the group?
Actually,
Mike,
Commissioner,
jazz music.
Go ahead, Mike.
Commissioner, there is one that Commissioner Fraser just reminded me. I'll get in front of you, but it's essentially the bill in the Senate that would legalize cannabis. And you talked about local control, and that's what reminded me. I'll get the bill number for you, but essentially it sets up the parameters of a program, but it also allows the county to opt out. It would, if the county opts out, they're not entitled to the tax revenue from it, but you still have the opportunity to opt out. So I'll get that one in front of you as well. Just when you talked about local control, just reminded me of that one. This is going to be a pretty important bill. Question was, will it be a bill? Will it be a referendum? I think that's still up in the air. We'll have to see how this bill progresses.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, again, Mr. Fowler, thank you so much. And now let's move on. We're going to talk about the Exploration Commons over at the 50 East at 50 East Project. Our library system is Miss Andrea on, Miss Burslark. Okay, I see Bob. You're not Andrea. I see Tony. You're not Andrea. Okay. Or is Andrea on?
I was hoping I'd get better looking as we went on.
Not allowed to comment on things like that. I see Roberta. That's still not Andrea. Okay. I don't see Andrea on. So
I will
with
go
that
run.
said-
I'll go run and catch her.
Okay, you don't need to run, but that'd be appreciated. Whoever wants to start it. Are you all ready to start, or you want us to move on?
Commissioners, I think we could probably get started
Okay.
as we wait for Bob and Andrea. So Bob was to give a construction update, and Andrea has just arrived. So
Okay.
this is good news.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. I was on earlier and I guess I got kicked out. So
Good morning.
technology is wonderful. Good morning. Good morning. How is everyone?
Life is good.
Great. I want to, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to talk a little about Exploration Commons. We thought this was a timely, a good time to bring you up to date on the status of the project. We're somewhere around halfway through construction at this point. And normally we would invite you to come on over and take a tour of the space and see how things were going, but nothing about this year is normal. So here we are doing all of this virtually. I have with me today two of my staff, Bob Koontz, who is our Director of Operations and Innovation, and he's overseen this project from the very beginning, from back when it was just basically an idea, and Tony Eckert, who's our Director of Finance and Analysis. So we thought maybe we would give you a brief update on the project. Bob has been working with Chris and has some slides to show you, some photographs of where the project's at. And then Tony can share a little of where we are with the financial piece of it, and answer any questions that you have regarding the project in any aspect of that. So Bob, I'll go ahead and turn this over to you.
Second here, it's got to let me in. Oh, and it's asking me to restart.
Oh, no.
It won't run the slides. It wants to restart. I'll go ahead and do an update. I can send the slides later. I had a slide deck of photos of the job site and where we're at today. We've made a lot of progress in the last 6 months. Probably from when you saw it, it was just a big empty space. We've now have completed most of the internal construction, where the walls are closed up inside. We have most of our mechanicals are completed, HVAC, plumbing, electrical. The rough-in is almost all done. Flooring is currently being installed in the kitchen and the restrooms. We have completed the raised floor in the makerspace. They haven't put the tile layer on yet, but the structure is in, as are the underlying floor. The low voltage wiring is being installed right now. Marathon, who's an Eldersburg company, will be installing the network and security cabling. And then we have Gramophone, whose CEO, Andrew Davis, is a Westminster resident. They are installing all of the audiovisual equipment throughout the space, which is really important to us. We've got monitors everywhere, and we will rely heavily on that in our meeting rooms, in the classroom, and in the kitchen as well. The AV gives us the ability to stream out to pretty much any format, to any equipment that people would need. So we're really looking forward to that. Our ceilings should be closed up in a few weeks once all that cabling is done. The elevator tower is up, and the elevator is set to ship shortly. So we'll be glad to see that on site. That was one of those big unknowns, is how soon it would get here. Today, we were over there this morning, and the glass walls are starting to go up inside. So we're really starting to see how the space is going to be shaped once we're completed. Lots of blue tape everywhere so people don't run into them or crash through them, which would not be any fun. For the project, that's pretty much where we're at right now. I do want to thank Chris Haga and Eric Burdine for their help and work on the project, and a big thanks to Lewis Contractors. They've really been great to work with on this job. They've done a good job for us. Our timeline, we are currently about a month behind. Most of that is due to weather, as well as some delay in receiving products, mostly due to COVID. But being a month behind, it isn't too bad right now. We are looking at opening in June. Our substantial construction completion should be about the mid-April, and then that gives us another month and a half to outfit the space, get all of our furniture in there, the equipment, and get the staff moved in. For staffing, we hired our staff back in January. Jen Bishop, who is our emerging and digital technology manager, sat through all the interviews. We hired them. We have 7 total staff in the space, 6 FTEs. And they've started to create the processes and procedures for the makerspace and the teaching kitchen. They're busy learning all the equipment, the software that we're going to be providing access to our customers in the space. So they've got a lot to learn ahead of them. And they've also begun to start creating the programming. That's really what this space is about. It's about programming. It's about training people to use the equipment so they can, continue with their hobbies or join the workforce, learn a new career, and that's really important. And we're starting with these programs and the training to work so they're able to be used either virtually or in person, because we really don't know where we're going to be at in June yet. So we want our programming to be able to be accessed in multiple ways. So the staff, they're on board, they're excited, they're really working well together already. So we're really excited to get this space open. That's all I have, Andrea.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Bob. Do we want to
We have a question.
questions for Bob, and then we can move on to talking about the fundraising piece?
Sure, Mr. Coons, thank you very much for the update. As a business owner, I really appreciate the objective of this project. I think long-term it's will really be very good for the economy locally. Also appreciate you mentioning Deputy Director Eric Burdine. He's a pleasure to work with. And since this project is in Commissioner Frazier's district, I would love if Commissioner Frazier could arrange with Ms. Bursar a visit of the site under construction, maybe take a few photos and include it in his priority carol next week. Because your word, Mr. Coons, your words are great, but the photos and pictures are worth $1 million, so to speak, and give our constituents a feel of the investment we made and something tangible as an asset. So, Commissioner Frazier, I hope you're able to have that next week.
Well, since you put me on the spot, I guess I can stop by for a visit and get some pictures of one of you guys want to email me and we'll can set something up and it'll work out perfect. Appreciate that, Eric.
You're quite welcome. And I know there's no pools that need to be closed up right now, so you have a little bit more time.
No, but I'm actually wrestling right now. Wrestling's going on, but that's okay.
We'll get that set up. We'll get that set up with your office for you, Commissioner Frazier.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, well then, I'll go ahead and ask Tony if he wants to give a brief update on where we are with the financial aspect of this project.
Thanks, Andrea, and good morning, Commissioners. In addition to the progress Bob's reported on, we have made considerable progress raising funds for this $4.9 million project. I'm going to give a little history, so I think it'll give important context. In the FY18 capital budget, the Commissioners approved $600,000 for Exploration Commons. And then also through the state capital project program for libraries, we secured 1.9, almost $2 million over 3 budget cycles, or actually 3 fiscal years, for the design, construction, and for major equipment. Another $95,000 was awarded for equipment, and that was federal money which passed through the state. We have raised to date another $715,000, almost $716,000 from private organizations and donors. So not including the county's $600,000, the library's been able to secure funding for over $2.9 million, or about 59% of our total need. Adding the county's funding brings us to our total to $3,547,000, or about 70% of the need. We still have considerable work ahead of us to raise the remaining $1.4 million. But I want to give a few highlights from our fundraising. In looking at private donors, our two largest donors so far have been, and you're probably aware of the number one, Davis Library provided $200,000, and the Callard Foundation has given us $150,000. In addition to Davis and Callard, another 145 individuals and organizations have contributed to Exploration Commons, and we're quite proud of that there's this wide community support. To assist in raising the private monies that I just mentioned, the library applied for and was awarded state tax credits through the Department of Housing and Community Development to support the construction of Exploration Commons. And we successfully placed all the tax credits under our 2019 award by placing $56,500 in tax credits that required twice that amount of money in donations, or $113,000. It's a good program to leverage private donors' contributions, and so we've applied for an additional $25,000 in tax credits to assist fundraising for equipment purchases for Exploration Commons. If granted, these would be available in calendar 2021 and this year and 2022. A decision from the state is expected to come to us in the spring. Also, we will shortly we will be rolling out a campaign to the community at large, asking for their final support. Most of our efforts thus far have been with major donors and with grantors. So this campaign, this final phase, if you will, is for the stretch run to get us to the rest of the way. At this point, we've spent approximately $2.5 million for all the work that Bob mentioned. We've spent all the $600,000 that you commissioners have given us. So you might say, well, you know, there seems to be a little bit of a gap here, and there is. But you might recall in FY19, the commissioners made available $1.5 million in the form of a loan to allow us to complete the project while we continue to fundraise and to collect on pledges. I expect we'll be drawing on those loan funds within the next several weeks, because the pace of construction has really ramped up. So happy to answer any questions, but thank you.
Thank you, Tony. As I said, it would be nice if we could have you all in the space, but unfortunately that's not the case. So if there's questions on the project itself for the fundraising, we'd be more than happy to field those now.
We're going to assign Commissioner Frazier to get out there and look at it. Mr. Eckert, appreciate the report. You do a wonderful job with the accounting. Also, on a side note, I was wondering if the Union Mills corn roast will be going on this year, and whether Commissioner Wance and I will be out there joining you eating corn this year, because that's a wonderful event.
Well, certainly hoping that the pandemic will subside and we'll be able to have the corn roast, and hope I'll be able to be a volunteer there serving you and load you up with plenty of corn.
Well, I hope this year you can sit next to me and have corn with me and not be 6 foot away.
Okay, look forward to that.
Okay, any further comments? I do appreciate the letting us know about Marathon. They're going to be doing a grand opening soon, so hopefully somebody from the library will be there to attend and highlight the work that they're doing in support of the library. And Gramophone, you're obviously working on high-end equipment, so you know, again, good stuff. Appreciate the briefing overall on the timeline of development, along with the costs associated. So any further comments from anybody?
Good luck to you all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We again, I want to echo Bob's comments, working with Chris and Eric and many of the many of the individuals in county facilities department has really made this project go so much easier. They are professionals and they really added an awful lot to this, and we're appreciative of that great partnership with Carroll County to make this kind of project happen. So thank you all, and we hope soon that you'll be able to come over and see this space as it's completed.
Looking forward to it. Go
Either
ahead,
this
Dennis.
week.
Yes, we'll definitely get you in this week, Commissioner.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Tony, Andrea, thank you so much. Let's continue to move on. Fire and EMS update. As we discussed last week, the intent is to get Director Bob McCoy in front of us to provide us updates on a weekly basis as we continue to move forward. So, Bob, you're in the shadows, but I see you regardless. So, you're up.
All right. Good morning, Commissioner. Sorry about the lighting. Probably picked a bad spot.
That's
Yes,
all good.
joining you brief weekly as we get closer to our goal date of July. So to start off today, I want to start again, as I did 2 weeks ago, with the 3 questions. The first being, why is the county doing this? The Fire EMS Department was established to provide efficient services for public safety, fire and EMS for all citizens and visitors to the county. The request for intervention did come from the volunteers through CC Visa to assist with service demands, the financial burden of employment services from the stations, and the consistency of service delivery. The second, what is the ultimate goal? That is to build a combination fire EMS department, transferring the employment burden from the volunteers to the county. And the third question is, what are we doing to accomplish this goal? As you remember, we did a presentation to you back November 12th of last year to seek your direction on several items. And based on that direction, we have focused our efforts over the last several months on 4 goals, which is the creation of a memorandum of understanding, the budget, the hiring of personnel, and the public safety training center. So we put together a chart to highlight the objectives that we've been working to achieve our goal, and for some reason it's not letting me share my screen now. Miss you.
I had to make you a presenter there, Bob.
Okay, you're now the presenter.
Okay, is that come up for you?
We can see your email.
It's moving in the right direction.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, so basically what we did was we put a chart together to go over each of the goals. The first goal was the creation of an MOU for the assignment of personnel. And we've listed the elements that we feel are important. The first one being the organizational structure. And what this does in the MOU is it clearly defines the entities involved in the building of the Fire EMS Department, which is the department as the authority having jurisdiction made up of volunteer and county personnel operating under the authority of a director as outlined in Chapter 37 of the County Code. Stations, each independent corporation is identified as an operational entity of the department. And county personnel, the employees of the department that will be managed by the director assigned to various stations. The next part would be the county employee volunteer relations. The first part, assignment of personnel, references the assignments based on request, available resources, priorities of staffing. And it also references employees' access to all amenities permitted of members, as well as sleeping quarters and storage, the basic needs of our personnel that are going to be spending 24 hours a day in the firehouse. The use of the facilities and the use of the vehicles are similar. We appreciate all the hard work and dedication the volunteers have done in purchasing and maintaining their apparatus in their facilities, and for use of those facilities to provide that service for the county we continue to fund the daily operational cost of the vehicles in the facilities. The next item is the work environment. It discusses our desire for a safe and harmonious working relationship with the volunteers in these stations, as well as any workplace. We are always going to have issues. We just want to be able to address the issues and eliminate as best as possible. Next thing is a code of conduct. Discusses working with the volunteers to establish a code of conduct and a volunteer operational disciplinary policy. All corporate disciplinary matters remain the responsibilities of each stations, with notification to the director if it affects that member's operational status. Once again, we're always going to have career and volunteer members that may violate a personnel procedure or a standard operating procedure. We're going to need methods in place to address each issue as we go. So we will work towards establishing both of those documents. Volunteer management communications, that basically involves the discussions between myself and the volunteer leadership, whether it's the chief or the president, just on how we're interacting within the station, as this is a new issue. So we'll be maintaining monthly contact as much as possible to discuss how everything is going. Next part of the MOU elements is the budget. This section discusses the responsibilities of the director to present a final draft fire EMS department budget to the commissioners for approval. It also references the ability for the commissioners to audit expenditures of any county funds by anyone. And the volunteer process, it discusses the volunteer, I'm sorry, somebody have a question? Oh, I'm sorry. It also discusses the volunteer budget process. And what we want to ensure is that the volunteer budget process will remain the same as it is now. Each station will submit a budget request to CC Visa. CC Visa will then convene their budget committee and finalize a draft that will be presented by the executive board to the director, my staff, and my financial analyst that's assigned to me to be incorporated into the fire EMS department budget. I've also communicated with CC Visa, as well as it will be in this document. If the commissioners provide any direction requiring any change in funding, a percentage decrease, or a flat budget, that those changes to the volunteer budget will not be made in my office. We will send that information back to the CC Visa executive board for their budget committee to reconvene and decide where any reductions need to be made. They know their needs best, so that would be sent back to them. Social hall and fundraising. The county department will continue to encourage all fundraising activities, do our best to even help advertise because of the good it does as far as the money that's reinvested back into the fire service through apparatus purchases. It also agrees to fund supplies and minor repairs of the hall through existing station funding. Now, this is a practice that evidently was not permitted in the past. We provide funding for cleaning supplies, minor repairs, things like that throughout the station. I believe it's just a normal function to have to, or to at least fund those issues to support that fundraising initiative. And the last part of the MOU is the EMS services, which draws up a lot of discussion now. The draft discusses the assuming of EMS billing responsibilities by the county when assignment of personnel, when personnel are assigned to the station to address the shortfall of wages between the stations and what the county is going to end up paying. We have developed an RFP process. We will be sending that out shortly. The MOU also discusses a recommendation to purchase the existing ambulance fleet. and all the large capital items associated, the cot, the Lucas tools, the life packs, everything that's going to be required for the EMS services. This is drawing a lot of questions. The reasons for that recommendation to purchase all the capital assets: one, it provides a clean process for the county. It eliminates the need to track where the revenue was generated, establishing a distribution schedule and what percentage should go to each station, and then issuing payments on a predetermined schedule. It eliminates the requirements of volunteers to have to fundraise for the purchase of ambulances or large capital items that are going to need to be replaced, such as life packs. It transfers all the liability for ambulances to the county and away from the volunteer companies. And it also transfers all costs associated with fuel, maintenance, insurance, liability, anything associated with those units to the county. From the operational standpoint, it also provides flexibility to reallocate, move resources based on out-of-service units without having ownership issues or the need to have those discussions. To accomplish this goal, we would contract an EMS or ambulance appraiser, which I have identified and have spoken with and received a quote. This person has been a seller, designer of EMS for ambulances for years, is also recognized by the courts as an authority in ambulance appraisals. We would have them review the fleet and provide a document to the county where we would be able to sit with each department and review the cost to the county with that department and come to an agreement on a final price. We would want to pay that, develop a payment schedule depending on the amount. I would assume a short schedule, no more than 3 years, with the initial payment being upon assignment of the personnel. With that initial payment, we would like the transfer of titles to the county so that we could move the insurance from the individual company insurance plans to the local government insurance trust, which would be a large savings for all. It would also ensure volunteers' career regardless of who would operate the vehicles. A concern mentioned by the volunteers during discussions on the purchases of the ambulances: why would they transfer the titles prior to full payment? Would there be a lien, as the county requires when we loan money? The answer I've always given is, we're, as a county government, we could obviously sign an agreement. We have revenue producing authority. Our chance of default is minimal. So I'm sure we would honor our debt as far as purchasing those units. And then the last part of the plan of that goal would be the vehicle replacement plan as part of our fleet. All vehicles are reviewed annually by fleet for the annual vehicle replacement plan. So they would be added into that. And you may see some of these items referenced several times, and I'll address those as we go through the tabs. The next goal is the budget. Wage scales are near completion by HR for all positions that may be associated with the fire EMS department. While we were doing these work steps, we went ahead and created ranks all the way up through director, deputy chief, assistant chief, battalion chiefs on down. Not saying we're going to utilize any of those anytime soon, but we wanted to go ahead and create those scales. EMS revenue, that will need to be discussed as with the EMS billing. The reason we are requesting to purchase the units and have 100% of the revenue is to address that budget shortfall between the salaries that the stations pay and what we're going to end up paying for salaries and benefits. CC Visa, the budget committee, as I discussed, their process would remain the same. Any changes required of volunteer funding per direction of the commissioners would be sent back to CC Visa to work on. I have had people ask me, what is the role of CC Visa? I figured it's I'll address it here. CCVISA has filled a management position for the volunteer for the fire service in Carroll County in general for decades. Now with the establishment of the Carroll County Fire EMS Department, CCVISA is going to see a transition from more of a managerial role with the County Fire EMS Department to an advocate association for the volunteer companies, hence the term association in CCVISA. SAFER grant, you'll see this mentioned again, potential revenues that will be available to the commissioners if you choose to submit a grant application to address the budget shortfall. And the last part under budget is operational funding. I took about 3 weeks. I went line item by line item through all 14 stations and all the individual budgeted functional areas to get a good understanding of what the county pays for. I laid out all those categories in a document that can be incorporated into an MOU if necessary. I think one of the biggest concerns I'm understanding from my discussions with the volunteers and the questions that they present is the concern of continued funding as we transition to a fire EMS department. One of the things that I truly recommend as chief is that obviously all operational costs associated with running the fire EMS department should continue to remain the responsibility of the county government. What you may see over time is as we identify efficiencies, the ability to transfer costs to an existing county contract or the power of county spending, you may see some of this money remain with the county that used to go to CCVISA. So over time, all these operational costs will continue to be funded. It's just who pays the bill may change over time. So I believe that is a big concern of the volunteers. That is truly understandable, but we need to ensure that the daily operational costs of these departments can continue in the future. The next part, goal, is the hiring of personnel. Draft schedule, we had presented originally in November the idea of a hybrid hiring instead of hiring all at once or delaying the hiring over 1 year. We would hire on a scheduled, a draft schedule. And we looked at a hybrid of bi-monthly hiring. We have set that schedule up. The original goal is to start July 8th of 2022, or correction, 2021, FY22. And we also talked about the station order, where I slotted the busiest stations first, and we worked our way down. The reason I did that, several advantages. One is more personnel. We're able to test our processes as we go. We're hiring bi-monthly. So it will give all the departments within county government, payroll, procurement, HR, the opportunity to identify their needs to facilitate the fire EMS department with smaller numbers as we progress. The first 4 stations that I've listed cover 65% of the calls in Carroll County. The first 6 cover 79.5% of the calls in Carroll County. And then strategically, the first 6 stations cover all regions of the county as far as county personnel assignment. Now this, like I said, the original goal was based on a bi-monthly hiring. Obviously, this can be adjusted. The timeline can be slid to the right if necessary based on your budget decisions. We can also be less aggressive and maybe go to quarterly, depending on your decisions. So it's very easily able to be adjusted. Job descriptions, just like with wage scales, is working on job descriptions for all potential ranks within the fire EMS department. Wage scales, the wage scales will encompass the fire EMS personnel, EMS only trained personnel. We will definitely be looking at some EMS only personnel with a career development path to cross train. And then also the emergency vehicle operator drivers. The county offices will also have requests in their individual budgets, like I said, to help facilitate their involvement with the fire EMS department. We're looking at a potential of possibly 200 personnel between 3 to 5 years. We're definitely going to have an impact on other various county departments. Pension plan, the HR office will need to draft the document, and which will be coming before you, I would imagine, in the next couple months for approval. The application process, we are working on now, define that process. We are not going to be able to have a traditional fire EMS department recruit school as we're transitioning services from the volunteer employees to county employees. We need to continue to provide that service. So in the beginning, it'll be more of an accelerated process. We're defining that now. We're also looking at securing an applicant testing contractor so that we can do initial testing. We will do background checks, medical exam, and all the requirements normally found in a process. Benefits, all the benefits are already established within Carroll County for employees, including workers' compensation. The volunteer stations currently maintain a workers' compensation plan for employees of their station. We have a volunteer plan, and we also have a workers' compensation plan for the station employees. They will be able to eliminate that policy as we assign personnel to their station, which will be a savings. Employees as volunteers has been a big discussion. A lot of people are concerned about that. I've had numerous conversations with HR. We've also talked to counties in the Maryland area. We do believe that we can address this issue through policy development, which would allow our career employees to volunteer in the county on their days off and still secure the county's interest. SAFER grant, as discussed prior, we're going to present a plan to the commissioners shortly with a number of positions that we're seeking to ask for. Keep in mind the SAFER grant is a short term. It will lessen the impact of the financial burden, but it's only for 3 years. So we'll give you a plan based on the number of positions, and with your approval, we will submit an application which could be awarded by the end of September. And last but not least, information technology. Mark Ripper will be working with us as well as far as email licenses and all the requirements of an employee to operate on the county system. And the last tab that we have is the Public Safety Training Center, as discussed in November 12th presentation. As this department grows with the potential amount of people over the next 3 to 5 years, our training academy or training center needs to grow with the department and address the needs not only of the employees that we're going to be hiring, but also continue the the needs of the volunteers. So our goal was to hire the training academy staff in July of 2021. We have created a wage scale, or we are creating a wage scale, I should say, for a training center manager and an EMS training coordinator. Job descriptions have been created for both those positions. Those job descriptions that we utilized were a product of CC Visa, so that we ensured similar job tasks to address both career and volunteer. In discussion with CC Visa, they do have a volunteer liaison position. Even though I serve as a liaison now between the volunteers and the county, that position is more of an administrative assistant in my view. They handle a lot of meetings for the executive board, for the officers. They also handle workers' comp claims. For the volunteers, they assist at the training facility as needed. So the county, we agreed to continue to fund that for a period of time, which will also be remain in the CC Visa budget. As far as the budget for the training facility, the manager and the EMS training coordinator would transition from CC Visa back to the county as we employ those positions. The funding for CC Visa liaison as well as the part-time instructors would remain with CC Visa. The facility and training cost would transition from CC Visa back to the county. The last part for the training center is Mark Ripper, again, with information technology. He's completing a facility review now to make any upgrades necessary to accommodate the county network for use of employees, and also any computer needs that we may have or possibly assist CC Visa with throughout the training center. So that's where we are right now with those 4 goals. I will continue to come before you weekly to provide updates as we move forward. Time is ticking as we approach our goal, and all our work efforts are accelerating now. A lot of pieces are starting to come together. So I do look forward to joining you, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Director McCoy, thanks for this. I think it's very helpful for all departments to get the timeline and organizational structure. I'm curious about the training center timeline on construction and upgrade. Where are we at on that? Because it seems to be very critical in this new system. Do you have a brief update on where we're on the upgrade?
You talking about on the construction at the training center? As far as I know, it's still on schedule. We have meetings planned with Dean Leister from the county. It's my understanding the money from the state has also been approved. So that will continue to work through the TFMC committee that CC Visa has established. So as far as I know, it's still on track.
Thank you. Just keep us posted as that progresses. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just one question, Bob. You're going to be buying all the ambulances for the county. What happens if there's discrepancy between your bid price and what they want for it? How are you going to mediate that?
One of the discussions I've had with Roberta and Tim Burke is trying to formalize a process for that would be included in the MOU. And one of our discussions was potentially the volunteers could also secure an appraiser, and then we work between the 2 documents, or we take the document provided by the appraiser and we negotiate a final cost up to maybe 10% increase with the volunteer companies.
Do you think that's better than letting the unit go ahead and depreciate out throughout its lifetime and then be replaced by a county unit? I know that's a little more paperwork and a little more issue, but it seems like it would make sense. You have good units in place. Why should we purchase them now until we need to replace them?
Yeah, and that's a good question, but the EMS revenue that would go to the volunteers for the replacement, we would need that revenue as well for the purchase of this unit. So to me, that's where our discussion started with. It would just provide a clean process where we would replace it. It would close the budget shortfall for personnel that we hire, and it would just make it a simpler process. But that is definitely something.
Is everybody on? Have you met with all the players and guys came to that consensus? Is that?
Well, we're continuing to meet with the presidents. I think there's a mixture of feelings on that. A lot of questions associated. Would we repaint the units? We wouldn't make any changes to the units. If Pleasant Valley's unit is sitting at the firehouse, as long as it's still in service, it'll remain the way it is. We would not invest money into an identity package. I think some see the opportunity of that's money that they may have already saved that they can put towards fire apparatus purchases or savings. They wouldn't have to purchase any more ambulances. There's also a lot of questions about liability. So we're trying to work all those issues out through the MOU process. So I think we have mixed emotions. I think one of the biggest things is why would we transfer the titles over without full payment? My position, as I said earlier, obviously as a county government, we're not going to default on our agreement. We will definitely make good on that. So I believe those are one of the things that are going to take a lot more negotiation over time. think we'll come to some type of consensus.
Well, communication will be your key factor as you started this with, so.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Bob. Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Wentz.
Couple things for me. Next steps, I guess, for the MOU, Bob, as you work your way down through many of these details. I think it's essential that now that this presentation you take to ESAC, because you've really done a great job here. You've come a long way with the MOU, and I think next steps would be to get that group involved. And I would assume that's your intent, correct?
Yes, there'll be a briefing.
Okay. And then, as it pertains to all of these details, as we go down through and listen to all these, which, I think it's a great start here. I really do. One of the things that we're going to have to really pay attention to here, and this is specifically to my colleagues, is the fact that we haven't begun to discuss internal positions yet. That a lot of these details in the MOU will drive. And, we, Dick and Dennis, you remember, we sat and argued about one or two positions over the years. And actually, as recently as a year or so ago, we had a study of who needs what in our departments to the degree of we weren't able to meet those. But as we continue to see this MOU drive this engine, if you will, no pun intended there, we've got HR, certainly don't have enough people down there for this. Risk management, not enough people there. Comptroller, payroll, not enough people there. Budget office, not enough people there. You're talking about adding people out at the training academy. It's fine to start with those one or two. That's going to grow very quickly. We're going to need to really look at personnel out there. I've worked in a training academy, and you don't do it with two people. So I love the MOU. I think it's a great start. I do think you need to point out, Bob, and you have, that this is a work in progress. This is not set in stone. You're working hard to get all these things, and you'll tweak and change accordingly. But the fact remains, we've got some hard decisions to make here because, again, this, as you keep going down through this MOU, we got to make some serious looks at the personnel at 225 North Center. In addition to that, we're going to have medical costs. We're going to have to give medical exams to these folks. Somebody's got to pay for that. One other issue that has always been on the front and center as we put career people in volunteer houses, there's no internet. There's no interconnectivity to the county system. Everybody thinks, oh, yeah, well, all the fire stations are lit up. Yeah, well, that's fine. But there's no way each individual fire company right now is responsible for getting an ISP to light up that last mile. And there's no interconnectivity. And we're going to need to do something there too. So my point here is, as we go down through this MOU and continue to see the details come about, and I want to be clear again, I think this is a fantastic start. And I applaud you for all the work that you've done so far. We've got some serious discussions to have here, because internally, we are not ready.
And one thing that I also wanted to add at
Do you think we're moving?
Oh, go ahead, sir.
No, I apologize. Hold
Do
on
you
a second.
think we're
Go
moving
ahead.
too fast?
Well, I don't necessarily want to address the speed, Dick. I think we're moving at the best pace we can right now, but I do think that there could be a possibility that we're going to have to put the brakes or pull the reins on some of these things as it pertains to associated costs that we are, quite frankly, not prepared for. You made a brief statement today, Dick, about Carroll County Public Schools, and it probably went whoop over everybody's head. But for those that have been paying attention over there, they're going to ask for, right now, I think it's $6 million more. We've got Kerwin on our plates, and Mike Fowler talked about that there, hopefully there's going to be things in place that keep that in check for us. We've got a lot on our plates, and everybody saw that article in the Carroll County Times last week about, oh gosh, we're golden here, all kinds of money flying everywhere. Okay, no, we don't. No, we don't. And we really need to pay attention here, and we're not ready. So the pace at which we do things based on the MOU has got to be together. I guess that's the strongest point that I can make, Dick, to your question. As we get into the first steps of the MOU, okay, how many people does Kim Frock have in HR? Well, certainly not enough. And a lot of these things that they've done already, I applaud them. I don't know. Honest to God, I don't know how they're doing it down there. They're coming up with pay scales and all this stuff at the same time. They're doing everything they're responsible for currently. So I don't want to drag this out. We need to seriously look internally. And I said this before, not only there for the fire service, but what's going on internally with retirements. And there may be we may have to move some people around and do different things in different departments to make this work, because I quite frankly don't know where we're going to find all this money to hire all these people. So
so I appreciate what you're sharing, and I don't believe we should be looking at this as time driven. It should definitely be decisions made when tasks and objectives are met, and then we move forward. And that's where this Gantt chart and the risks associated that we've talked a lot about. We need to be aware of the time as we're moving forward. But this focus at this point, although you're putting benchmarks on there, 200 days, 30 days, 90 days, whatever it may be, keeping us aware. Are you meeting those benchmarks in time? And then also, are you meeting those benchmarks in completing the tasks? That's where it'll allow us to make better decisions. I don't want to say, because Commissioner Wentz said the same thing, you've come a long ways. I think we have come a long ways, and communications is definitely showing in getting better in design. I think the ESAC is going to have and should have a more defined role in moving forward, not just in receiving briefings, but using the subject matter experts that are on that, that they have, within the ESAC that, Steve, you described last week. You're doing this each week. The intent here is definitely not just creating work for you to do, but keeping us abreast. And when decisions need to be made, we're prepared to make those decisions. Because if not, we're going to be caught in a bind where a decision needs to be made and we're not going to be prepared. And that's the biggest fear, I think we all have when it comes to people and money, that Commissioner Wentz, you were alluding to. So, no, good stuff. Good briefing. I think it needs to be defined and refined, and we'll move forward. So, but it should not be just time driven. Absolutely not. We do that, then we're just really gonna catch ourselves in a bad situation. So, what else? Those are my.
Thank you, Bob.
Go ahead, Dick. Anybody else?
Now, I agree wholeheartedly with you, Ed. It can't be time driven, but where the time comes in here is, when we get to step one, do we have the resources internally to achieve step one?
Right.
Okay, we probably don't. So now we're time driven. Now we got to put step one on hold because we're not ready internally. So that's where the time comes in. I get what you're saying, but this is a great, Bob, you have set the stage and it's fantastic. But now we've got some serious, we've got some serious work to do internally in order to go down these adjacent paths on this journey, or we're going to get jammed up. So that was my only point. So
No, absolutely. I think we're saying the exact same thing. So, yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do. That's for darn sure. Bob, any lasting comments? Or
No,
final
just
comments?
with everything you're saying, it cannot be time driven, but we have set the goal. We're going to continue to reach for that goal. And if this needs to slide to the right based on needs, we'll be able to adjust. So we're going to continue to work on all these items and come back to you weekly with progress reports.
Awesome.
And I appreciate your time.
Okay, thanks. Okay, let's move on. Tom Devilbiss is going to talk about exercising option on some purchases, and we have a handful of them, I believe. So, Tom, you're on.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good morning. Yes, we are pleased to be here today to request your permission to exercise options on 5 installment purchase agreement ag preservation easements totaling 630 acres. I'd like to just highlight real quickly while the presentation's getting set up, the hard work and persistence that staff, and that'd be Deb Bowers, JP Smith, and Jackie Bratham, have been undertaking through this whole process. These projects and the IPA program are somewhat more complex in nature, and it takes a little bit more effort to work with the citizens. And it's really challenging for these folks to coordinate with the families, because many times these families are in the process of transitioning with their estates or trying to figure out their futures. So this program provides a great option for citizens, our citizenry, but it does take a little bit more thought and planning process. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to JP, and he can walk you through each one of these options, and we'll request that you take consideration on each one individually. JP, you there?
Unmute JP.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah,
Much better.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Sorry about that, Tom. We're here today to present to you our Carroll County Ag Preservation Installment Purchase Agreement farms for final approval. I want to tell you a little bit about our installment payment options. These are leverage installment purchase agreements. It's an agreement to pay for a conservation easement using installments of tax-free interest at 5% for 20 years in exchange for a discounted purchase price. The principal is also paid in full at the end of 20 years. And we use IPAs because it conserves and stretches taxpayer dollars. It enables more acres to be preserved per cycle, and it lowers the final percent of fair market value paid compared to lump sum purchases. Here are the 5 IPAs that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to go over each one of them individually. The first property is Ralph and Janet Billings. It's on Bloom Road in Westminster, and there's 119.362 acres. And we'll be retiring 7 lot rights. And this farm is located in District 4, and the estimated fair market value of the Billings property is $970,292. The estimated cost for the IPA, which is 40% of the fair market value, the 40% value of the fair market is $388,117, and our projected bond cost at 0.704 is $273,152, and we would be paying annual interest payments of $19,300 to the Billings. The final county cost with the interest in the bond for this property is $661,152. This is the farm down on Bloom Road. And this is how the farm fits into other preserved farms in the area. You can see it's just east of Route 27 and right in between that and Bloom Road. At this time, I request final approval of the Ralph and Janet Billings property. And I'm willing to take any questions.
Well, it's in my district and I'm for it. I motion we accept the IPA proposal for the Billings property off Bloom Road.
Second.
Okay, got a motion second. Any discussion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor? Okay, we got 5.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next, we have the estate of Barbara Crapster. This is at 1922 Kraus Mill Road in Tawnytown, and it's 250 acres. We'll be retiring 13 lot rights, and this is a District 1 property. The estimated fair market value of this property is $1.59 million. So the projected bond cost of this property is $447,744, and the 40% principal is $636,313. The estate will be paid $31,800 annually, and the final cost of the interest in the bonds will be $1,083,000, or $1,083,744. Here's the farm as it sits right off of Kraus Mill Road. And this is how the farm sits within the other preserved farms in the area. The Tawnytown area up there is just extraordinary. We have, if you don't count the roads, we have over 30,000 contiguous acres up in this part of the county. It's just amazing what we've done up there over the years.
That's probably why I'll move up there.
What's that, Eric?
That's probably why I'll move up into Lance's district.
It's nice up there, I have to tell you. It's really nice. There's a lot of beautiful places in Carroll County.
There's a reason why it was numbered District 1. Okay, just saying.
I'll submit an application to go move up there with you first.
I'll make the motion that we exercise the option on the Crapster, their farm. This is a great farm, and that estimated value there goes to show how tremendous it is. It's a wonderful area up here.
I'll second your motion.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion in a couple seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none, all in favor? Okay, let's go to number 3.
Thank you, Commissioners. Our third property is the Edgar Gist property. This is located on Emery Road in Reisterstown. It's 100.7 acres. This is a my goodness, not ag. This is a conservation zone property. That's why it's 6 to 30 lot rights. With SB 236 in play, we're retiring less lot rights, but without it, it's greatly accelerated. This is in District 2. The estimated fair market value of the Gist property is $677,000. 40% of the fair market value is $270,810, and the projected bond cost for the gifts is $190,080. Our projected annual interest payment will be $13,500. The total combined cost will be $460,080. Here's the Gist Farm. And here's how it fits with other properties in the area.
Do we have other properties that are going to be, that we're looking at surrounding directly?
We have been approached by a property just north of this, but there was some significant cleanup that needed to be done before we could really entertain them as an applicant. But we do have other properties in the area. Here it shows where it's situated next to Finksburg growth area. And I think that's Congolium right there in the red. This time we request final
This
approval.
area,
Yes, sir.
I'm very familiar with this one. It's beside the agricultural part. It is environmentally sound for the Patapsco River. I think comes down right through there. And I know there are other properties, adjacent properties are looking into these type programs. And with that, I move the Board of Commissioners exercise an option to purchase and sign the resolution for an ag conservation easement with the Edgar W. Gist property.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none, all in favor? Okay, we got 5.
Thank
Number
you,
4.
Commissioners. Next, we have the Richard and Barbara Hunter property. This is right off of FSK Highway, north of Tawnytown, just below Kingsdale. It's 91.36 acres, and we will be retiring 12 lot rights. This is located in District 1, and the estimated fair market value of the Hunter property is $550,806. 40% of the fair market value, the principal, will be $220,322, and our projected bond cost for the Hunter property is $140,800. The projected annual interest payment will be $9,900, and the final county cost will be $340,800. Here's a Richard and Barbara Hunter farm split by Francis Scott Key Highway. And this is just south of the property that the Parks and Rec had recently purchased. And here's how the Hunter farm fits in with preservation, which is beautiful.
Hey, JP, what's the break there in that?
Here?
Right. Yeah, right there. Yep.
That is an attempt to show that these lines will no longer be there. This farm, Richard, these lines actually belong up here next to Richard and Barbara's house. And for some reason on the tax map, they were placed down here. But this is going to be consolidated. So it will be all one property. So these lines are going to disappear, whether they're here or up here. But that's what that is.
Okay. I didn't know if there was, some sort of an easement or it
No.
has the easement, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I've been expecting some questions on some of these lines, even with Mr. Gist. I guess at some point in the past, his property, he was given a lot on the farm, but that's also going to be consolidated back in. We consolidate every farm that we can when possible, so that we have less future problems.
Okay, so I suppose that begs the question then, these lines, because I know how they are, I just went through this with some personal property that, the lines were thought to be here, but they're 10 feet more over there. And, you know, you get into a jam there because back in the day, that's how it rolled. I would suspect that we try to get these boundaries spot on before we make any attempt here. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. We do. And we have some great people that also work in our department, GIS people, specifically Sandy Baber and Mike Roberts, that are diligently every day working on these property lines. And to tell you the truth, they're doing an awesome job. Anytime we bring up any problems that we have, they fix them relatively quickly, and they update often. So they are working on it. I mean, there's an awful lot of lines on these maps, and they're doing a tremendous job.
Yeah, it's interesting.
If I
It's
could.
interesting.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I just want to reaffirm that there are also, and JP, I think can confirm this, there is survey work done, and many times there's discrepancies when that survey work is done between the property owners and what they think they have and what their neighbors think they have, and sometimes that's why it's quite a while before these folks get before you with these farms, because there's some surveying disputes or challenges that have to be overcome, you know, before we bring them before you. So JP, if I'm not mistaken, everything is very much confirmed through survey work and deed work and all before they get before the commissioners, correct?
That's correct. We have a surveyor plot out the deed descriptions of every property.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that's, you know, I personally, on a piece of property I had, there was a rock that was the corner. You know, back in the day, that's kind of what they did. You know, they went from that rock over there to that rock, and
Exactly.
we're good, but no, we're not. So, okay. All right. Another good property in my district. It is close to where the future park and rec area is. I'll make the motion to go with this Richard and Barbara Hunter property, as long as the lines are straight.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion, we got a second. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none, all in favor?
Wance is crossing the line.
We got 5. Let's go to the last
Thank-
property.
I think this is our last property today. This is Everett and Connie Morse property. This is right off of Grand Valley Road in Westminster, and it's almost 68 acres. We're retiring 4 lot rights. Now, Commissioner Wance, this is another perfect example. If you notice, this color is just a little bit different here. This line is an old lot line, and when they took this off conveyance, they, for some reason, this was telling us that these people lived here, and we have that corrected. But for the sake of the map, this is all included in the easement, all this out front. So anyway, the estimated fair market value of the Morse property is $360,710, and 40% principal is $144,284, and our projected bond cost for the Morse property is $101,376. Projected annual interest payment is $7,200, and the final cost to the county will be $245,376. This is a overhead view of the Morse property. And this is where it fits with other preservation in the area. We do have other farms in the area that have come before you for our mouth program that we're working on up here. And there is other interest in the area as well.
Another great area. Yep, another great area.
So. I don't know why we don't have more farms coming in here. You know, we're really looking forward. There's a lot of opportunity in this area of the county for us.
Yeah. Yep, there is up there. interesting that that only had 4 lot rights on it. I would suspect that that would have had more, but okay.
Yeah, they took the off conveyances, these two houses here
Okay.
on the corner, which
Right.
in a perfect world, that takes 2 more away because they didn't make them big enough to split them. So,
Yeah.
that's why it's low, but it's a lower acreage property as well. And it's all
Okay.
ag zone.
Yep. Good area. I'll make the motion for the Edward and Connie Morris property.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion, got a second. I guess I could have done that. Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor? Okay,
Thank you,
good
Commissioners.
deal. Absolutely. Good job, as always, JP.
Thank you.
Okay, now let's move on. Tom, and you want to talk about a change order to the Greens of Westminster Stormwater Management Restoration Contract.
That's correct, Commissioners. I'm joined by Chris Hind, who is our Bureau of Resource Management. Today, we're before you because we came across a little bit of a problem in one of our stormwater management retrofits. And it's really a rare incident where this happens, but we, during construction, found sinkholes in one of those projects. And this was in the Greens, which is just west of Westminster, actually in the Greens subdivision. During construction, when we initially started the project, we did not know, based on the geotechnical work that was done there and all, that we would hit any marble in that location. And just so you know, the marble is what people call limestone in this area. And it is the sinkhole-driven geology in Carroll County. And it is, in some areas, very uniform, and in other areas, very sporadic. This is one of those sporadic areas. So having said that, when we started the project, one of the initial things that was to take place was a relocation of a wastewater line, a sewer line, and we actually did hit marble at that point in time. So we crossed our fingers that we wouldn't have any sinkhole issues, and the crossing of fingers did no good, unfortunately. So what ended up happening was when the facility was excavated initially to remove some of the material that had deposited there during one of the storms that we had, we did have a sinkhole form in the bottom of the facility. When that happened, we undertook measures to mitigate that, which basically ended up being we have to excavate a sinkhole, we have to fill it back properly, and then we have to put additional cover back over the facility in order to mitigate that. When that took place, we found other sinkholes that had opened up, and that's usually how it happens, believe it or not. When you get one, you can get multiples. One other thing that we had, which I think is very unique here, I want to take the opportunity, and we have some video of it. They actually were taking the track hoe, the large track hoe, across the bottom of the facility, and in some places we proof rolled it. We rolled it with a vibratory roller to initiate sinkholes, to create them once we found one. And they found some soft spots in there. When they were taking the bucket with the track hoe and pushing on the bottom of the facility, it was like they were like one of those old wave tanks that you used to have. You know, when back in the 70s, you could see the wave going across the bottom of the facility for a short distance. That's how unstable the ground was. So to end this story, we did excavation there. We repaired all the sinkholes in those suspect areas, backfilled it with the proper clay bottom that was required to make sure we were reinforcing it from future sinkholes. And the change order that was required to do that work amounted to $7,493.53. And so that was over our approved ability to make the payment for that, which is a 10% threshold. And so we're here today for your request to approve that change order, keeping in mind that the project cost was and budgeted was $730,000. We actually were awarded, or we awarded the contract to Kibler Construction for $655,000. So we're just in that range of the approved budget. So we feel very confident that we pretty much kept it within the budget range initially. So any questions you might have for myself, or if there are any more engineering type specifics about this project, certainly Chris can answer them. We request your consideration for the change order.
my concern, Tom, you shared that once you find one sinkhole, you're potentially or likely to find others. And you're saying that this is going to be the last. The confidence level in, once this is restored or once the work is done, that this will be the last. How do you come up with that?
We use the best available technology, Commissioner, our professional judgment. We do what we can to prevent them in the future and have a lot of confidence that we did a good job. We've got vast experience, Commissioner, 30-some years in repairing sinkholes in Carroll County government. And I feel very confident that what we did out there, achieved the goal of mitigating in this specific location.
Mr. Devilbus, I thought you were going to say it was the last because you're retiring. All this excitement going on with rocks and dirt. You sure you don't want to stick around a little while longer for us?
I will enjoy those rocks and all in a different mode.
So,
did you finish the project as it needs to be finished, even with this setback?
Chris, you want to address that, please?
Sure, yes. Yeah,
Did you finish the project as you need to, even with the setbacks?
Yes, we did. Yes, the project is substantially complete. At this point, the last couple items that need to be addressed are paving of the access road, which is weather dependent, and also making sure we get final vegetative stabilization, which is also weather dependent. So all the construction work, other than the paving, is done, and the contractor has demobilized. And then as the weather improves, we'll take care of those last couple punch list items.
Well, I move the Board of County Commissioners approve the changes, the change order in the amount of $77,493.53 to the Greens of Westminster Stormwater Management Restoration Contract.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion, I got a second. I appreciate, Tom, your response to my question, because 30 years of subject matter expertise definitely goes a long ways. Any further discussion, comments, questions? Seeing, hearing none. Go ahead.
Real quick, refresh my memory. Where is that exactly is the project? What road is that? And you say it's in the Greens, but where is it again? I'm just curious.
Chris, it's right off of Wampler Avenue, correct? What's the cross street?
Yeah,
I don't remember the cross street. Okay.
Yep, I got it. Wampler,
Okay.
I got it. Okay, good.
Okay. Any further discussion, comments, questions? Seeing, hearing none. All in favor? Okay, we got 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay,
Commissioner,
now we're going
thank
to
you.
move. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Good job, Tom, Chris. Now we're going to move into a public comment before we go into our agenda review and open admin. We do have public comments. Chris, do you want to
Sure.
put them in order?
Okay, I'm going to unmute the first person. Please identify yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes. Caller number 1, you are
And
unmuted.
I apologize. Let me just, a little ground rules. If you have not provided public comments before, the intent here is to be listened to from the commissioners. There will not be a dialogue going back and forth between commissioners. Any questions you may have, we will record and work to get back to you and be responsive to your questions. But it's your opportunity to be heard and listened to at this time. Go ahead.
Caller number 1, you have been unmuted. Please identify yourself.
Aaron Dockery. I'm a resident of Sunshine Lake, and I would like to yield 3 minutes of my time to a fellow neighbor. His name is Mike Weiner.
Okay, we'll mute you. And next one. Caller 3, please identify yourself.
My name is Chad Costello. I'm also a neighbor of Sunshine Way, and I would also like to yield my time to Michael Winner in regard to stop signs that we have requested.
Okay, thank you. Caller number 7, please identify yourself.
Hi, hello, good afternoon. My name is Michael Weiner of 589 Sunshine Way here in Westminster. Thank you for taking your time today to hear my voice and the voices of my neighborhood. We, the residents of Sunshine Way between Sullivan and Hahn Roads, together have a message that you, the Board of Commissioners, need to hear. Our road, in which we call home, Sunshine Way, has been a speedway for a long time. We've been working with the county for years on a solution that would safely protect our families and maintain the aesthetic appeal that drew us to this neighborhood in the first place. Although it isn't our primary concern, costs on us and the rest of the Carroll County taxpayers also plays a factor in our decision on how to best resolve this problem. A couple of years ago, at the request of Commissioner Frazier, the county performed a traffic study which proved and quantified the dangers of our way. Also, at Mr. Frazier's request, we formed a community committee which met prior to the pandemic on multiple occasions with the county engineer, Chris Lenanchin, to work together on design a solution to our problem. Our first idea that we had was simple and effective traffic enforcement. However, it was then brought to our attention that the county sheriff, Deweese, was independent of the county and could not be instructed to perform any enforcement. All enforcement efforts would only be provided if resources out of the county's control were available. Mr. Lenanchin introduced us to the concept of traffic calming, which tries to slow traffic by least affecting the flow. From the beginning, all of us on the committee recognized this concept to be erroneous, given the problems that we witnessed daily. With the curvatures of the road and the blind spots that the topography and parked cars and driveways and on the street create, we as a committee unanimously agreed, with our combined decades and decades of driving experience, that traffic calming was not the solution. Every member of the committee favored to try the least expensive and safest option for our neighborhood, which was the installation of stop signs on Sunshine Way. The engineer, Mr. Lenanchin, initiated the claim that in the concept of traffic calming, stop signs do not work. Respectfully, our committee rejected the need for traffic calming and emphasized the need for traffic stopping. We weren't arguing that the fact that in situations where traffic calming can be implemented safely, affordably, and aesthetically pleasing, that the concept doesn't have its place. However, on our street, the street we travel every single day of our lives, and the street we know better than any other in existence, we need traffic to stop, so that our children and our community can safely share the benefits of the paved way. Mr. Lenanchin and Mr. Frazier wanted to hear nothing of the sorts from us residents. Even though stop signs are a legal option to control traffic on our street, as they do in countless residential intersections throughout the county, state, and country. For some reason not explained to us, the far-fetched idea that installing stop signs would make the neighborhood more dangerous was now being sold by Mr. Frazier and the people who answer to him in the county roads departments. In an email received on February 25th of 2020, Mr. Lenanchin informed me that he was directed by the Director of Public Works to proceed with the proposal of 3 center islands and 3 center bump outs on the initial ballot for us residents to vote on. At this point, myself and my neighbor, Mr. Costello, requested a Zoom meeting with the Director of Public Works to request that all legal options be placed on any ballot for the neighborhood to decide. After all, the residents have the driving experience and personal experiences on our street to make a reasonable judgment on how best to resolve our problems. So what happens next? We have a Zoom meeting with the director and other county officials who, with seemingly deaf ears, ignored yet another attempt to consider stop signs and equitably place them on the ballot at the request of the community. As expected, the community rejected the initial ballot and the county began its attempt to cease further progress on the issue. As months went by, I continued to send emails to the county requesting progress. Finally, Mr. Brown, the deputy director, informed me that he will soon be sending a second ballot for the community to once again vote on. This time, I demanded a stop signs be an option on the latest ballot. Once again, the community was ignored. We were sent ballots with only one option, the expensive and unfavored bump outs and medians. I'm sorry, can somebody please mute their phone? the expensive and unfavored bump outs and medians that had their own safety concerns, which were never addressed on Mr. Costello's driveway. We as a neighborhood stepped into action and attempted to distribute an addendum in the rain on Labor Day 2020, which provided a choice for the community. We had very little time to get this distributed. At that point, the county team, with their less than legitimate failed attempt to implement their concept, sent us notification that they are done working on this problem. They have traffic studies that show danger. And putting this on hold for 2 years is not an option. We were never given an equitable vote or any idea that they would be stopping progress and that if we were interested in reapplying in 2 years, we could do so. I'm here to tell you today, this is not how this is going to work. The safety of my children will not be placed on hold because the single option by the county did not get approved. I have in my possession a new ballot that was taken door to door over the last 2 weekends. We gave a choice unlike the county ballot. We allowed the neighbors to choose between A, the county proposed traffic calming options, and B, stop signs. Of the 53 signatures we received, 100% of them are for stop signs. Given there are 71 homes on or adjacent to Sunshine Way, this exceeds the county's set requirement of 66% by a substantial amount. We still have 18 houses that we didn't get answers to yet, and we hold a 75% majority. As far as his neighbors are concerned, stop signs are legal and exist everywhere else in the county. We are here to demand that they are installed. If the commissioners or anyone else wish to argue that stop signs are more dangerous, I have 2 questions for you. One, how many complaints do you have from local residents that want their stop signs removed? And 2, how many intersections have you removed, or do you have approved plans to remove multi-stop stop signs in residential areas? We, the residents, have spoken. We are asking for reconsideration in offering support for implementing our favored resolution. A representative from our party will drop off copies today to the commissioner's office for all of you to be reviewed by. Please take the next week and discuss this amongst yourselves, and we look forward to hearing your responses in next week's commissioner's hearing. Thank you for your time. That's all I have.
We will, once receiving, whatever correspondence, we'll work on it from there, but thank you. Okay, next caller.
Caller 8, you've been unmuted. Please state your name.
That's all I have.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Thank you. Caller 8. You've been unmuted. Do you have a public comment?
It may have been the entire group.
Yeah, they might have. Okay. If no comment, we'll get back to you later. Try again next Thursday. Thanks.
Or this afternoon, we have
Or this
public comment.
afternoon.
Okay. Do we have any other public comments?
None that I can see.
Okay. Open admin, anything for open admin amongst us?
Roberta has her finger up.
Roberta, you have a finger up.
Yes, thank you. So some time ago, I don't remember exactly how long, the prior Board of Commissioners established a long-term advisory council. They did their work. They did even a sort of a wrap-up year, which was completed either January of 19 or January of 19. Anyway, so it's been some time since they've been, completed their work, but technically the board is still on your books as a viable commission. And just like your approval to eliminate that board. since they've completed their work.
I believe that they.
You're coming through very garbled.
Yeah, that was all broken up, but I think I got the gist of it. I think I know what you're talking about. I think those folks that served on that, we want to greatly thank them. We already have many times. They did a great job, but I don't really see a reason for that group to continue. I think what they accomplished was good. We've got it, and we actually have a lot of written work from them as well. So I would entertain the motion that we go ahead and just stop that commission at this time.
I'll second
And
that.
I will, I apologize. Commissioner Boucher, did you second? Okay, so we got a motion, we got a second, and I agree with the sentiment that you made. I do believe that type of commissions, like a task force, where you stand up for a specific purpose. When that purpose is complete, you disband it and you take what they provided. So again, our great gratitude, and we have provided that to that team. So we had a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the LTAC? Seeing here none. All in favor of disbandment? Okay. The second board and commission, I think that Roberta would want to say, instead of her getting garbled, has to do with Economic Development Commission? Okay, well, I want to bring it up. I don't believe there's a continuing purpose for that commission to continue speaking with our economic development team and the work that they're doing. So again, providing boards and commissions gives us an opportunity for to leverage subject matter expertise within the community for specific purposes. At this time, I don't think that it's active, and I think that it would be appropriate if we just take that off of the books as well. The Economic Development Commission. Motion. Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Okay, 5-0. Any other open admin? Okay, we're going to move into agendas. Let's see. Starting next week, wishing everybody a very happy Valentine's Day on the 14th. But I was going to say we're closed in observance of Valentine's Day, but that's not true. We're closed on Monday in observance of President's Day. Tuesday, February 16th, Planning and Zoning Commission meeting with Commissioner Wance will be attending, and Commissioner Weaver and I will be attending the Veterans Advisory Council meeting at 2:00. On Wednesday is a day of MACO, the Maryland Association of Counties, where Commissioner Frazier will be in the subcommittee for land use, Commissioner Wance for the tax subcommittee meeting, both at 9:30. And then at 10:00, they will both be attending the legislative committee meeting of MACO. On Wednesday at 2 p.m. is the Economic Alliance of Greater Baltimore board meeting, which I will be attending. And that later afternoon, Carroll Community College Board of Trustees meeting will be a virtual meeting with Commissioner Wance attending. On Thursday, February 18th, at 8:30 in the morning, the BWI Business Partnership, the new Garrison Commander, Installation Commander, Colonel Nyland, will be the keynote speaker. Personally, I can't believe it's about 4 or 5 commanders since I commanded there, so time does fly. But I will be attending that for a brief time. At 9:00, we will go into open session, going through the typical state directives, the health update, and legislative update from Mr. Fowler. We will then, as weekly, have a fire EMS update from Mr. McCoy. Sheriff DeWeese and the state attorney, Carroll County State's Attorney Office, Mr. DeLeonardo, will be coming in to talk about law enforcement body-worn camera project. They'll be providing us a briefing at that time. We will then get a loan request from the Hampstead Fire Company. Let's see. We will have a bid approval request for a 2021 pipe culvert repairs replacement on Old Hanover Road. We'll then go into our typical open admin, public comments, and agenda reviews, and then into close for land acquisition. We have nothing on Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. Commissioner Weaver will be providing the podcast on the 21st. Excuse me. On February 22nd, Monday, we have Governor's Emergency Management Advisory Council, or GMAC, where Commissioner Wance will be attending virtually. We will have an open session at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, February 23rd. And right now we have legislative update with Mr. Fowler, but that open session will fill up as we move forward. On Wednesday, the 24th is again a MACO with the Land Use Subcommittee with Commissioner Frazier, Tax Subcommittee with Commissioner Wance, and then the Legislative Committee with Commissioner Frazier and Wance, all being virtual at this time. On Thursday, we have open session. Again, the beginning of open session, dealing with the state directives, Mr. Singer and his team giving us a health update. We'll have I apologize. Mike Fowler will be providing that on Tuesday. We'll then go into fire EMS, excuse me, update from Mr. McCoy. And we'll have a public hearing if necessary on the FY22 transportation plan. Let's see. And then we will have a public hearing on the proposed amendments to Chapter 34, or ethics. Chapter 34, ethics. At 11:04, after that, 11:05 scheduled, is a Piney Run watershed study briefing by Mr. Devilbus. We will then have a conversation about the fees dealing with water and sewer amendments by our planning team. And then fees dealing with annexation requests, again, by Ms. Eisenberg from planning. We'll go through public comments, agenda review, and that'll be the end of Thursday. Friday, Saturday, nothing. And Commissioner Frazier, I look forward to your podcast on the 28th, ending up February. Okay. Do the agendas sound right to everyone?
One change. The 24th, 5 o'clock, I know the Board of Ed has an added work session about the opening of schools. I'll be attending.
Okay. Okay, where am I at? Now.
Unless somebody else will go.
No, go ahead. Unless somebody else wants to attend. Right now, you are tagged to attend. We'll figure it out if there's going to be a change. I think at this point, I need a motion to go into closed for land acquisition, and then recess after that, going back into open at 1:30. Okay, do I have a motion to go into closed at this time?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, do I have a motion then to recess after close to then go until 1:30?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay.
Second. Be careful when you recess. Going outside for recess today, it's kind of snowy.
Yeah.
I like recess. Okay, we got two so moves, but we got no second. Anyway, we have a so moved in a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we go into closed.